Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to do a 3x3x3 review for Founders of Teotihuacan by Board&Dice Games. This is a review copy that was sent to me, and some of the components are a little bit different, I think, than the retail version will be eventually. It's available for pre-order on several sites now, and I'm going to tell you 3 things I enjoy about this game, 3 things that either I didn't care for or I could see other gamers not enjoying so much, and then give you 3 recommendations of other games that have a similarity to Founders of Teotihuacan. Before I get into the review, I want to give you a general sense of what the components are and also a flow of how the game operates. So 2 things that are out here on the board. One is this bag. This is not part of the game itself. I just picked this up at Michael's. It's just a cheap little canvas bag. I like to use it for solo play because you're supposed to blindly choose action tokens, and rather than trying to shake them up in your hand as suggested, I like to just put them in a little bag. So that doesn't come with the game, but I find it helpful for solo mode. And then there's also this die, which does come with the game, and it is just for solo mode. So we'll put that off to the side for now. I additionally just have this little bowl from Dollar Tree, I think, and then I put the 3 primary resources in the bowl. There is stone, which is the gray, and then there's gold, the yellow, obviously, and then there are wood. Now, there are a couple different colors of wood here. That's not naturally part of the game, but this was an early released edition for me to do a pre-order review, and so they had to send extra wooden cubes as a separate shipment, and so they aren't quite the same color. I'm sure in the final production they will be all just the same color of brown. So these are the resources. Now, in addition to that, down here we have a personal player board, and you can play up to 4 players. And this will show just each player how they can put the tiles that you'll be gaining from the central board. Now, a couple things about the personal player board. You have one little small tile that will just be tracking your score around the outer edge. You have a little architect meeple, which will be moving from side to side along the 4 sides of the board in a circular manner as you take your turns. You also have 6 action tokens, and these are going to be used differently depending on player count. So at 2 players you use all 6, but at other player counts you use a different number. There's a first player token, and then each player will start with 3 of these pyramid tiles that you'll be placing. The pyramid tiles get placed in this central circle, and these other buildings that we'll talk about in a minute get placed outside that central square. I said circle, but square. Outside that central square. We also have these masks, and I'll be explaining what they're for. And we also have these little icons here in the pyramid building square that I'll be explaining in just a few minutes. Let's take a look at this primary central board that all the players would have access to. And you can see that it's divided into rows. So this top row are the different build actions you can take. And then this bottom row are the influence actions you can take here with the green background. And this red middle strip is where you're going to be choosing the actions that you select according to the action strength, and I'll explain that here in just a minute. It's also separated into vertical columns. So in this column, if you choose to put an action token in this section, you have to either take the build action that's above or the influence action that's below. If you put it here, you would take this build action or this influence action. And if you put it here, you would take this build action or this influence action. Now, when you put it on this red strip of action selection options, if you're the first person to put it on these little bonus tokens, and these are not fixed on the board, so they randomize each round of the game. But if you're the first one to cover it, you get that bonus. So some of the bonuses shown here. This one is you just get 2 victory points straight away. Now, anyone that places on top of you will not get that. It's only the first player to place there. This means that if I place here, I would have to choose either this build action or this influence action as normal, but I could choose an additional influence action from any of the 3 green choices. If I place here, I get a victory point and a resource of my choice as long as I have space on my board to put it. We'll explain how that works in a minute. If I place here, I can do a build or a influence action, and then I get to do an additional build from any of the 3 sections. If I place here, I get a victory point, and then I also am increasing my action strength by 1. We'll explain that here in just a second as well. And if I place here, it's another victory point slash resource, extra resource. Now let's talk about these build actions and how the action point works. So let's say that I wanted to build one of these. Well, the bonus discs that are down here count as 1 action point, and then when I put my token on there, that means it now has an action strength of 2. And so I could build this tile because it's 2 squares, or this tile because it's 2 squares, but I couldn't build any of the other ones in this section. I could take the influence action if I wanted, and that would be I could place wood, stone, or gold, one of each resource by each of my buildings that are already built in my player board. Or I could take 2 of these singles, and I could take 2 wood or 2 stone or one of each and place those on my player board. So that would be my choice. Now, let's say that I wanted to build a 3-sized item. I could take 2 of my action tokens and place them there, and then I could take this one or this one or this one. If I wanted to build 4, I would have to have an action strength of 4. Now, it's not just how many tokens you play there, though. You can also play on top of another. So if I played here and chose to take a 2-strength tile, place it on my board, if the next player comes along and places theirs on there, theirs would be a strength of 3. So when you go in first, yes, you are getting the bonus, but you're also setting up the next players to have a more powerful turn. So there's that give and take there that you're trying to think of. Now, when we place these, every building that you build, whether it's these that provide resources or these temples which provide these worship tiles, so the temples are here and the worship tiles are here, or these pyramid tiles which provide victory points, and if you're building on the bottom level of your pyramid square, you also get these bonuses. Everything you build, there's an extra bonus to it. So for instance, if I were able to purchase this one and put it into my territory here, then I would take gold from the supply and I would place it in every orthogonal spot around that building. So these resources provide the gold, the wood, and the stone, and you just are going to surround it like that. Now, you can't go into the pyramid section, and you can't go on top of other tiles, and you can only have one token or one little cube in any one square on the board, so you start to get filled up as time goes on, but now I would have those resources to use at any time in the game. Now, this architect tells you where you can build. So if I started with my architect here on the north side of the board, then I could build it in this north half of the board. If, however, my architect was over here for my turn, I would have to build on this eastern half of the board. If it was over here, the western half, and if it was down below, the southern half. So the architect, after your turn, just keeps moving around, and then you can only build in that half of the board that your architect matches with. All right, so that is how the buildings work for developing your resources. All right, so we'll put those back. At least you get that idea. Now, when these buildings are bought and placed, they are not refreshed until the end of the round. And the rounds end when all the players have used up their action tokens. All right, so we've talked about this column. You can build these to gain stone into your territory, wood or gold. You can take these actions to increase your stone, wood, and gold onto your board, or just get some single pieces for the wood and stone buildings. Now let's talk about this middle portion here. If you build this one, it requires 3 action strength. So you would either have to put 2 down, which gives you the bonus plus your 2 for a strength of 3, or you would have to wait until somebody else is placed there so that you could go on top to get enough action strength to earn it. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now there is a limit on all of these actions. You can never go beyond an action strength of 4. So how do you buy a 5 action strength tile? Well, over here on the side, you can see that if I want to build this one, it requires a stone and a wood. Now, if I only have an action strength of 2, or maybe I just don't want to pay that much, I could just place 1 tile down. So I've got 1 for the bonus token and 1 for my token, action strength of 2. This is 3, so I'd have to flat out pay the base rate of a stone and a wood. But this little wood here that's in a circle, kind of a grayed circle here, I can pay extra wood for any action strength I'm missing. So if I have an action strength of 2, I could pay a stone, a wood, and another wood to build this 3 action strength requiring temple. If I were wanting to build the blue temple, it would take 2 stone automatically, and then an extra wood for every action strength that I'm lacking to the maximum of 4 that's required, or to the minimum of 4 that's required. And then for this one, I would need to pay stone and gold automatically, and then I can contribute extra stone to get up to the 5 action strength required. So if I played just 1, that would just be an action strength of 2. So I could pay a stone and a gold, and 3 more stone to be able to place this. Now, when you build these temples, you also place them out here outside the pyramid square, and you also take a corresponding worship tile. And these worship tiles, once the game setup has taken place, are always going to be turned over with 2 of them facing. And when you build one of those temple tiles, you're going to be able to choose which of the 2 face-up worship tiles you would like. And they all give you different kinds of bonuses. For instance, this gives you 3 victory points, and you get to choose a 3-size building. This one gives you 8 victory points at the end if you have both of these on your board somewhere. This tells you that you can pay 3 resources to build any one of these temples. Instead of having to pay the given resources, you can just pay 3. So they all have some sort of advantage or some sort of benefit for you if you use that worship tile. But when you gain them, you don't actually get to use them immediately. If I gained this one, I would put it over here in my player area, and then I would have to take this influence action later in order to activate that once I've satisfied it. So this one doesn't take anything to satisfy it. I would just have to use this influence action. I would get the points and get the tile. This one, I would just wait until I have both of those on the board, and then I would take this influence action and I would get those 8 victory points and track it with my little token here. And so that is the middle portion of the board. We get over here to the final portion of the board here, building the pyramid tiles. If I were to want to build a pyramid tile, you can see that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 size square, if I'm thinking about each of these little squares that match this shape. So a 4 square costs me an action strength of 4, but these also cost me 2 gold and a wood. And then I can pay extra gold if I don't have enough action strength. So again, I could take 1 token, and if I place it here, this actually gives me the increased action strength if I'm the first one to put it on this bonus tile. So there's 1 for the bonus tile, 1 for my token, and 1 for the action of the bonus raising it. So that's an action strength of 3. So then I could pay 2 gold and a wood and an extra gold to get up to action strength of 4, and I can choose any of these pyramid tiles and place them in my pyramid square. And so once you pick it up, you see underneath it shows you're going to get 2 victory points. And then if you place it, or when you place it into your square, if you're placing it on one of these bottom level spots, here you would get a wood or stone single square tile to place in your building and 2 victory points. Here you'd get a 3-size gold. Here you'd get a green temple tile. Here you would get a free worship tile. Here you would get an orange temple tile, wood building, blue temple tile, and stone building. And so when you cover those up, you automatically get those. Now there's a little bit of rule about the placement, and this is where I want to talk about these masks. If you cover up a whole cluster of masks, so if you could cover up all of these 5 pink ones, the first one to do it gets the first mask token over here worth 7 points. The next person only gets 4 points, and then the next person only gets 2. And I've just got this set up for a 2-player game. Same would correspond to these yellow. If I could get this 4 cluster of yellow, first person to do it gets 4 points, then 3 points, then 2 points, and same for purple. So purple are worth 9 and 5 and 3 as you work your way down. So it's kind of a race to get those covered first. However, you only get to cover masks if you bought the board and took it off of this central playing area. If you gain it as a benefit like this, if I gain this green temple tile, I don't take it from here, I take it from the general supply. And I don't have those out, but typically you'd have them maybe sitting all around the outer edge of this as extra supply for all of these buildings. And when you stock it at the beginning, for a 2-player game, you only have 1 of each of these here, and then for any player count, you always have 2 of these here, and then for any player count, you only have 1 of these here. And so when they're gone for that round, they're gone, and at the end of the round, you restock according to the amounts based on player count. All right, so there's a little bit of a thinking about when you're getting the tiles and when you can cover masks and when you can't. And you also always have to build according to your architect's position. All right, this little emblem down here just shows us that when we move this tracker down, and this little bit here, we've got a sun and a moon tracker, and so this just tracks the rounds. So first round we're here, then second round, then third round, and then fourth round is when they meet. And that's the final round. So it's a pretty quick game. And this just reminds me that when we reach this moon token, my pyramid squares that are on the bottom level are going to score 2 points, 2 victory points for any matching colored temple that I have in the corresponding quadrants. I'll show you some demonstrations of that in a minute. And then if they are on the second or third level of my pyramid here, as I build it up, they're worth 3 victory points for matching temples that are in the corresponding quadrant. All right, so that's what that means. And then over here we see for any 2 gold you spend, you can get a wood or stone. So if you have a surplus of gold and need wood or stone for one of the buildings, you can always trade that way. And then these are just the stock for replenishing these. And then the bottom influence action here, if you take this action, you move your cube or your little token up. You get 2 victory points the first time you move up, and you get to swap one of these worship tiles you've already gained for one that's face up. So maybe you gained one and now you realize I'm not going to be able to satisfy that. I can swap it for one that's out there now that I know I will be able to, or maybe already have satisfied. And then the next time you do, you move up here and you get 4 victory points and get to do the swap again if you choose. Then 6, then 8 victory points. So just a way to get victory points and potentially swap out these worship tiles you've earned along the way that you're not going to be able to satisfy for something you see that's better, that's now visible, that maybe wasn't when you earned it the first time. All right, so that's what all these parts are and the basic idea of how you place things on the board. Anytime you place tiles, you can spin them and twist them, but they can never overlap each other. They can never go off the board. The building tiles here can never leak into the pyramid, and the pyramid tiles can never leak out. Pretty self-explanatory that way. And as I mentioned earlier, all players start with 3 pyramids to begin the game. So at the beginning of the game, you would just each choose, maybe I would want to do this one, and build a stone building. And again, when you're doing these, they're bonus actions. You're not actually buying it. They're benefits that you're gaining. And so you would take those from the general supply, and they can't cover masks. Now, when you surround these buildings with resources, the resources can go on the mask spaces, but the tile itself can't if they were a free bonus. And so maybe I'd put that there and gain the concrete building, put that there and gain the red temple, and then put that here and get the green temple. So every player can decide where they want to start. They get the corresponding benefits right off the bat, and then we begin the game. One player is chosen as the first player, and this will go to them. And then at the end of the round, it moves on to the next player, and we continue down through the rounds. Now, there is one other level of scoring. We've talked about how you can get victory points here, and you can get victory points on some of these bonus tiles, and you can get victory points here. But the bulk of your victory points are going to come from these worship tiles that you could earn along the way by gaining them and then activating them at this influence spot, or by scoring your pyramid at the end. So I'm just going to take some random tiles here, and let's say that I put this here, and this here, and this here, and this here, and maybe I didn't get that one filled in, but I started building up right there on that corner. And so maybe have one more here that I've built up there. So let's say that that's the end result of my pyramid. And then I would have a variety of different temples out here. So let's say that I had placed that there at some point during the game. I'll just use these for demonstration so you can understand the scoring. Place that there and place this one here. And let's say I place this one here. Oh no, let's do it here. It'll show a special rule. And then let's place this one here and this one down here. Now, hopefully I would have more temples than that, but maybe that's all I've got. All right, so let me slide this up just a little bit so you can see my player board a little bit easier. And so then we go kind of quadrant by quadrant and score. So this green temple or pyramid tile will only score temples that are all or partially in this quadrant. So this one is partially in, so that's going to earn me 2 points according to this little reminder here, because it's on the bottom level. It doesn't matter what size it is, just the color match. So this scores 2 points for having this one in that quadrant. This one scores actually for both of these quadrants because this pyramid tile overlaps that line. So, but it doesn't score this temple twice, it just scores it once. But this would give me another 2 points for that one. All right, then I go to this blue one. This is going to score me 2 points for this blue one. This is also going to score me 2 points for this blue one. This is going to score me 3 points for this red one because these are in matching quadrants, and it's on the second level. This is going to score me 2 points for this green one. This is going to score me 3 points for that green one. This is going to score me 2 points for this, and this is going to score me another 2 points for that. And then this blue tile over here is not going to get scored because there's no blue pyramid on this side. So I planted it over here. Maybe I was hoping to put a blue pyramid tile there and never got around to it. So this one actually isn't going to earn me any points. So you score your temples based on your pyramid design and matching quadrants, and you add those up to the other points you've been earning along the way, and the player with the most points wins. Now, there are various setup differences if it's 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, or solo, but I'll leave those details to you to read if you choose to play the game. So, all right, let's get to the review of the game now that you have a basic idea of how to play. So the first thing I want to talk about are the 3 things that I really enjoy about Founders of Teotihuacan. First up is, it is, I think, just a beautiful Euro-style puzzle. There are so many things to think about. You're trying to figure out your best route to the end of the game of scoring the most points, and there's just so many ways to earn points. You might focus on worship tiles to earn the points as you're going through the game. You might focus on building your pyramid up and trying to get your temple tiles in the corresponding sections and maybe getting a bunch of red ones where you got a bunch of pyramids and really trying to maximize your in-game scoring. You also have to think about having the right resources, because to build these, you need the resources that I showed you, like these blue ones require stone and wood and extra wood potentially, and these orange ones are going to require stone and gold, and then the pyramid tiles themselves are going to require gold and wood. So you're trying to think about, well, can I get enough buildings that give me the resources so that I can use those resources to buy the buildings, and then can I place the buildings where the architect is? And so you just have to time everything out. And one other thing I didn't mention in the teach is every round, everybody loses one action token. So like Wingspan, you keep losing actions every round. And so the game escalates and accelerates as the game goes along. And the player order changes. So you might be first now, but then next you're going to be last. And so thinking through, oh man, they're going to take that bonus action before I can get there. And there's just a lot of things. How can I maximize my turn? There's just so many fun things to think about and so many different ways to combo things together. I think that it's just a great puzzle. If you like Euro games and if you like games that require or show very little luck, this is the kind of game I think you might enjoy, and I do really enjoy this game for those reasons. Another is that it has kind of an interesting combination of different mechanisms. You're always comboing something. So when you build a building, then you're going to be putting the resources out. So you're trying to think about, well, where can I build this to maximize how many resources? That's kind of also part of the puzzle, but it's a combo. Build a building, get the resources. And then there's also that build a temple, get the worship tile. And so you're always comboing something because they give you different things. Build the temple, so in-game scoring. Get the worship tile, so in-game or even in-game scoring. And then for the pyramid, so I can get some points right now, and I got to think about where I can build it. So that's that puzzly nature, but a combination of things there as well. You've got this action selection sort of worker placement-ish mechanism, and then you've got this rondelle of your architect going around and around dictating where you can take those actions. So just quite a few little combinations of things. The action scoring of the discs, just how you can get the action strength, I think is really clever. That if you go early, you get a bonus, but if you go later, you capitalize on having a stronger strength. So just some very unique mechanisms, a nice combination of those mechanisms in order to create that beautiful Euro puzzle. So those 2 points kind of go hand in hand, but I think they're really two strong elements of this game that I really love. And then the third one is it's really actually, for as complicated of a puzzle it is, as deep as a puzzle it is with so many combination of things to think about, you actually can teach it pretty quickly. That probably took me 10, 15 minutes to teach this game, and there's a lot going on. But the board is well laid out. The rule book is very clear. And so I think that, it's pretty easy to teach. It's not great, like in terms of, it'll take you a while to get good at the game. I'm still not good at the game after multiple plays, but it's pretty easy for people to understand if they've played other games. Now, this is by no means a gateway style beginner's game, but this is more of a middleweight Euro. But if you've played Euro games before, you'll pick up on this one quickly, and it's very quick to play, so you don't need a 2 or 3 hour time frame to play it. We played with 4 players, and it took us about 90 minutes, and I played with my wife in under an hour. I played solo in about 30 to 40 minutes, so it's actually a pretty quick game for as much thinkingness and puzzling as there is, and the iconography is really clear. I never have to look back at the rules to remember what all this stuff means, except for sometimes the worship tiles, but they are nicely listed right on the back of the book, as I think all rule books should. So the one thing that I sometimes have to look up is easily found. I don't have to go searching through that rule book. So those are the 3 things that I really do love about Founders of Teotihuacan. Now on to the 3 things that either I didn't care for or I could see other players maybe not enjoying about Founders of Teotihuacan. First is there are 2 rules that I can understand why they're there, but they're fiddly enough that I think they kind of detract from the game, and I wish there was a way to maybe improve those 2 things. One is that architect that you're moving around the board. I actually love the restriction that it brings, but it is so easy to forget that it's actually even mentioned in the rule book that you want to try to remind each other to move it. Because there's so many things you're thinking about, and you're always trying to think multiple steps down the road and what's going to be available, and yet you got to remember to do this at the end of your turn. And if you don't, then you're going back, oh, wait a minute, I can't build that. I should have, and then you're like, well, should I go back and try to undo it? If there was some better way, I think maybe just even having a player aid to say, do this, do this, do this, and in big bold letters, move your architect. I don't know, something. I've played it with multiple people now, and many of them said, man, I just wish there was a player aid so that we had just a quick reminder. It's not a complex game in terms of what your options are, but maybe just that little reminder would be better, or some other way to make that movement of your architect a little more memorable, because I like the tightness that it brings to the game, but it's so easily forgotten that it feels bad when you've missed it and you didn't mean to, but then you can't really go back and undo things, and it happens every game. And so that's a little bit finicky to me. And then the second one is when you can and when you can't place buildings over the masks. And it kind of makes sense. If you're taking it off the main board, then you can. And if you're getting it as a benefit from the general supply, you can't. But that's easy to forget. And it's also, I'm not sure, it's adding another level of tightness, but it's so easy to forget and sometimes confusing. We've had scenarios like, oh, but this comes from the worship tile telling me to get that. And yeah, I am taking it from general supply, but can it cover masks or not? Probably not, because it came from the general supply. I wish the rulebook was maybe slightly more clear on that, but I think I understand it. But it's just kind of fiddly. Like, it's hard to remember. And there's every game multiple times like, well, can I cover the masks or can't I? And also many times like, oh, I covered masks and I wasn't supposed to, but that was 2 turns ago. And so there's just those two things. I think a lot of times players are going to make mistakes. And the more you play this game, the better you would get at remembering those details. But they're just finicky enough, just fiddly enough. And I don't know that while they do add some tightness to the game, which I appreciate, I'm not sure that benefit outweighs the frustration that it's caused in the games that we've experienced with just, oh man, I forgot to do that, and now I can't really undo it. So I know my score is sort of invalid. But yeah, so if you're okay with that, or you're really good at remembering those little details, this may not be a problem for you. But we have found it come up as something in every gameplay that I've experienced. The next one is the setup and teardown of this one is a beast. There are lots of pieces and there's no insert, so it's just baggies. And so you've got all these different kinds of tiles, all these different kinds of tokens, all these different resources. And yeah, it's maybe 15 baggies or so in the box. And so it just takes a while, and then you got to sort it all out off of everybody's player board. It's a good 15-minute setup and probably a good 15-minute teardown afterwards. Additionally, the player count dictates how many tiles go on, so you always have to look back at the book. Okay, it's 2 players who do this, it's 3 players who do this. So there's just enough there that if it had a really nice insert, or maybe like that player aid, which gave you those reminders, and then on the back told you about the setup, or maybe even the end round, like the sequence of steps you do at the end of the round, because there are several things you do at the end of the round. I don't know, a little player I think would really go a long way in this in this game. But I think a game tray or some sort of insert would be huge in terms of setup and teardown. I think it would make a big difference. So that's a second thing that I think might be a little frustrating, or at least has been for me as I've been setting this up and tearing it down a number of times. And then the last one is, I think the identity of this game is a little unclear coming in. It's Founders of Teotihuacan, so I think a lot of people are going to come in thinking, oh, this is going to be like Teotihuacan but trimmed down. And I don't think that's really what it is, at least not for me. I think it's a completely different game. The only real similarities I see is the artistic styles and the fact that you're building a pyramid. But in Teotihuacan, you're building a corporate pyramid, and here you're building it privately. And some of the terminology is the same, but the gameplay feels entirely different. And so while it's maybe a cousin to Teotihuacan, I don't feel like it's just a simpler version. In fact, I think the complexity of this in terms of the teach is way easier, and in terms of the game length, play length is much shorter. I think the puzzliness and the kind of player that would want to play this is the same kind of player that want to play that. So I don't necessarily think any of that's bad, but I think some people might buy this game thinking it's one thing and then recognizing, oh, it's really not what I thought it was. So it didn't really bother me. I actually enjoy what it is. But I think that may turn some people off when they think they're getting something and then they get it to the table and realize, oh, this is just a completely different game. So that's just something to keep in mind. It didn't bother me, but I could see maybe it catching people off guard. And finally, my 3 recommendations, and I've thrown a 4th one in because one is obvious, Teotihuacan. If you like the art, if you like the pyramid building, like I said, they're very different games, but they do have the pyramid building. You do have the resource management kind of issue, kind of the worker placement, set collection. There's some similar mechanisms, but it feels like a very different game. But that is an obvious comparison. So I'll give you 3 other ones, and I don't own that one, so I can't show it to you, but I have played it and really enjoy it. In fact, if I had to pick between the 2 personally, I prefer the Teotihuacan City of Gods more than this one, but both are really solid games. All right, so my first recommendation that's not Teotihuacan is Baron Park, and this is a Phil Walker Harding game. This is by Lookout Games, and it also has the polyomino, and you're building the polyominoes to gain rewards immediately by what they cover, kind of like you're covering up the spots on your player board here with the pyramid tiles, and then you're also working towards those end game bonuses and trying to race for different bonuses like the masks here. So there's some similarities that I see for Baron Park. Now, Baron Park is similar length to Founders of Teotihuacan, but far simpler, far fewer rules to understand. So if you're bringing in people who haven't played quite as many Euro-style games, I think this one is maybe a much better starting place, and it's pretty easy to play, easy to learn, very beautiful, one that we really enjoy. The second one that I would recommend is Cartographers, and this is the Heroes Collector's Edition, but whichever version of Cartographers you have, you also have that polyomino shape, but in this case, you're actually coloring them in on a map. So you're still having to kind of geographically figure out how those polyominoes fit best and putting them in patterns, like you're patterning up the pyramid and the temple tiles on this one, but you're trying to go for, okay, in round 1, I need these to be together. On round 2, I need these to be a bigger section. On round 3, I need these to be surrounding trees. There's all these different round bonuses and scorings that you're trying to do for cartographers. So you're thinking about how you place them to score, like you're thinking about how to place your temples and pyramids here to score, plus that polyomino connection. So Cartographer is a really terrific game, one of my favorites, and I think it has enough similarities. I also think this is easier. I would say it's about on the level of Baron Park in terms of complexity and the kind of player that might enjoy this game. Far easier than Founders of Teotihuacan, so something you might consider. And then the fourth one is brand new to me, and I've only played it once so far, but I saw a lot of comparisons to Planet Unknown. Planet Unknown, I just received this Kickstarter version, and this one is by Adam's Apple Games. Sorry, I forgot who that was for a second. And this one has, again, that polyomino shape. You're putting polyominoes out and you are drafting them. So just like you're having to kind of purchase and draft these, there's a little bit of a competition as on this one, there's a little space station that spins. And so you're looking ahead, oh, I might be able to get that. Oh, they took the one I wanted. And so there's that kind of similarity here. And then you are putting those polyominoes down to try to gain patterns, to obtain objectives and score in-game points. When you put the polyominoes down, sometimes it's going to cause you to go up this track, and the track earns you points as you go and earns you benefits as you go, kind of like the benefits you're earning here. Again, I would say this is far simpler than this game. I think a lot of people could understand and learn Planet Unknown sooner and easier. So this is just another option, something you might consider if you like some of the elements I've mentioned as I've talked about Founders of Teotihuacan. Baron Park, Cartographers, and Planet Unknown are some that I think you may also want to check out, something you might enjoy. Now, my final conclusion, what do I think about Founders of Teotihuacan? So if I could get an insert for this, I think I would play it a lot more. And I've seriously considered maybe house ruling. Even one of the groups that I played with talked about maybe house ruling either the architect or the masks or both, just to make it a little more streamlined, a little less fiddly. I hate to do that. I don't like to house rule games, and I like the tightness that it brings. So I don't know, it might just need more plays so that it becomes more ingrained. But with my style of gameplay, I just don't tend to play them a single game over and over again, especially one that's going to take me this long to set up and tear down. So it's in that weird land for me. I really, really like it. But the cons are just how often will I get it to the table? So if I were recommending this game, if you really like Euros, if you really like that puzzly nature and you don't mind the setup and tear down, go for it. I think you'll really love this game. And it is nice that it's a shorter game. You can crank it out in a short period of time. If I were rating this one, I would give it a 7.5. It's not quite up there in my sort of elite level games, but it's really, really solid. And I toy back around with, maybe I should trade this away because how often am I going to get this to the table? And then yet I don't want to trade it away because I really like it when I do play it. So it's just that push and pull, that wrestling for me personally. Maybe the things that bothered me wouldn't bother you at all. So take all those things with a grain of salt and decide what's a best fit for you. So hopefully this was helpful for you to learn a little bit about how the game plays and to hear the 3 things that I enjoyed about the game, the 3 things that sort of rubbed me the wrong way, and then also some recommendation to other games that have a similar feel. If this was helpful, I'd appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up, and I would love it if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions about the game, please leave those down below in the comments. If you have other recommendations of games you think might be similar to this, leave those in the comments below as well. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.